Hello, this is Greg Smalley on Pod 366. Today with my co-host, wrong one, L. Rob Hubbard,
Hello again.
joining us again.
Some
Who was
people
here?
never learn.
Yeah, where you were? When was you here last? Was it for John Michael McCarthy, or did you do one after that?
I did one after, so I did one after that. Kind of a kind of a fill in. Actually, for what we were planning on talking about today, and then that got delayed.
Right. Yes, I remember. Yes, we had
Yeah.
had a disc that was pushed back that we were going to talk about. But we do have a lot to talk about today, although we don't have much to say about most of it. So that's good and bad. So let's get started, though, with we have 2 theatrical releases this week and 8 Blu-ray releases. And the first theatrical release we have is still on the screen. Do you recognize it, Robert?
I recognize it, having looked it up. I believe that's the first thing we're going to talk about, and I should let you introduce that.
Sure. It's Perpetrator by Jennifer Reeder, who is a director whom I think we should be very interested in. She's kind of new. She only has, this is, I think, her 3rd movie.
Yes, she's done a couple other features on one that I guess was featured on the site, and she's done like plenty of shorts.
A lot of shorts.
And Knives and
Knives and Skin was the one. Her last one, which was definitely weird. Giles saw it at Fantasia and did not like it. He really disliked it, although I think he may have just been having a bad day. I saw it and it was just damn, but it was definitely weird and definitely showed a lot of promise. This one we're hoping is going to be a breakthrough. It appears she's described sort of as a combination of David Lynch and John Hughes, because all her stories are like weird horror stories that happen to be set in high school settings. So this one, I think,
not too dissimilar from what I gather of the synopsis that I've seen. I have seen Knives and Skin. There's another film with a similar title that I always confuse, and that description of like David Lynch meets John Hughes is pretty apt. She's done some other shorts. I like her visual style. I have to say that Knives and Skin, it looked great. I didn't really felt that it went anywhere, but
okay.
I think it's for a particular audience that will get more out of her work than I've seen so far. But this could be a change. This has Alicia Silverstone from Clueless, and the trailer. The synopsis makes it sound like more of a horror movie, but the trailer gives off more of a dark comedy vibe. So it's kind of like, it'll be interesting to see. Beyond that, will I like it? Maybe.
Yeah,
probably other people will.
I have a lot of hope for her, because just like I say, the style is really, it should be something we like, and she's always been praised by other directors we like. I think she's still like an up-and-coming talent who's still developing her voice. So like I said, I'm hoping this will be her breakthrough. It seems to have a lot of witchcraft/vampire elements in this one, and Alicia Silverstone hasn't been on screen in a long time. It's kind of neat to see her turning up, and her performance is getting some notice. So that is Perpetrator, out in cinemas now. And this next one is also in cinemas, though probably just one cinema, I think. And I think it's playing in LA, and it's also going to VOD immediately. It is called Astrakan, or Astrakan, perhaps,
Astrakan.
which the title, I believe, is a city in Russia. And it's about a young orphan boy who's in the foster care system in France. And we do not know, again, much about the story, except that there are some kinds of secrets. It's described as magical realist. And a number of people have mentioned that the third act takes a turn into the formally strange, which is why I selected it to mention. We do have the trailer up on the site, 366weirdmovies.com, in case you didn't know. So, Robert, you got to see the trailer? Did you have any thoughts?
It could be weird. Most of what I guess, but in researching this, most of what I've read seems that it's kind of like it's gotten really good high praise. But as far as like is it weird or not? There's something that takes place in that third act that kind of that maybe falls on the cusp of weirdness, but in any case it does look like a something to see. So check it out. So
we'd have to watch it to be sure. However, another point in its favor is that it comes from Altered Innocence, who they have a strong affinity for surrealist film and weird film. And also, I think that they're basically an LGBTQ based releaser. Everything they have, even if it's just one scene, has some kind of LGBTQ theme in it. I think Beautiful Beings was one I saw recently. It had like one scene, and that was enough for them to carry it. But so,
which should make sense. Like this, I think there's a hint in the trailer. There may be a hint. So a hint of that, which involves the end. So it makes sense that Altered Innocence would carry it. But this is one to watch. This is one to look for. So yeah,
they have a lot of good stuff. There is one more. This movie we haven't seen yet. You can go and listen. We'll link it on the YouTube page to our interview with the director here. It is Cosmic Disco Detective Rene. Now, we're just going to call it Cosmic Disco Detective Rene. When we interviewed the director, the title was Cosmic Disco Detective Rene, The Secret Society for Slow Romance 2. Now the title appears to be officially Cosmic Disco Detective Rene and the Mystery of the Immortal Time Travelers.
Which you bring up, this is a sequel / follow-up to the previous Cosmic Disco Detective Rene movie. So I'm assuming.
Yes, the previous movie was The Secret Society for Slow Romance, which had these two same characters, but they are, as the director Sujewa described to us, it's like they're in an alternate universe. Although they're supposed to be approximately the same two characters as in the first movie. The first movie he described aptly as being like My Dinner with Andre, where it was just two people talking basically the whole time. This one, he says, is a kind of a comedy mystery. We will have the trailer up, and although he doesn't like Sujewa Ekeniyake doesn't like his movies to be called low budget or micro budget because he thinks it's a bit ghettoizing and diminishing. I think people will realize that this was indeed shot on a very low budget, and certain people will be turned off by that. Other people are going to be fine with it and want to check it out. There's going to be a lot more creativity. Kind of looks like deadpan comedy. Did you get to see the trailer at least?
I watched the trailer of this, and I'm intrigued enough to kind of want, I guess, to want to like know more. So I'm looking forward to your interview with this director. I guess how you even heard of him.
The
It looks
title.
intriguing. It looks intriguing. I can see his point about like the whole like label of micro cinema or whatever. I can see his point, but you know, it is what it is, and that's cut and that aesthetic. People aren't keyed into that. It may be a issue of them accepting the film, but hey, I from what I've seen, I want to see more. So
There are other people for whom it will be they want to see micro budget cinema specifically. That is available for rental on Vimeo right now, and we will have a link to that as well. But let's quickly move on to this Infinity Pool had come out on Blu-ray. Here it is on 4K Ultra HD and the big word uncut underneath it. However, I'm not sure that that's. I think the other release was uncut too.
There was.
Uncut.
This is a steelbook, but this is a steelbook. There, I guess there was an uncut version out like on regular Blu-ray. From what I can tell, yeah. Do you really gain any? Do you really gain anything? If you want to see extra shots of Skarsgård's penis, yes. Otherwise, it's pretty much the exact film that was in theaters. So no.
Yeah, I believe that's what I heard.
Which I did see, and I guess for Brandon Cronenberg, Cronenberg's son, his third feature.
Yeah,
it's almost a even the original work as to the works of J.G. Ballard that his dad did with Crash. Infinity Pool is, I would say, it's an even better adaptation of Ballard or Ballard themed works like in his later period. Things like cocaine, like the book Cocaine Nights and such. Things like that, only with this sort of body horror element in the mix. I liked it. This was really interesting film. So,
oh yeah, I really like this film. It's weird in its atmosphere, and it's you sort of can't give away too much about it, but I think the trailer itself gives out the fact that it's about clones and the interaction between clones in the criminal justice system in a unidentified third world country that kind of could be just about anywhere. Even the alphabet isn't an alphabet that exists on the planet Earth. It's not clear where it's said. It could be Eastern Europe. It could be, an Asian island. I don't know. It's but it's very dark, very perverse, and it's sort of moral horror, which is what I would call it. So,
like I said,
yeah, go on.
Very much the atmosphere of J.G. Ballard's later works. So, like I said, and fans of Mia Goth's, I guess, from X and Pearl. Her performance here, I think, is equally as good. So
oh yeah, Mia Goth was boy, just at the end of 2022 and into 2023, she was just dominating horror. I mean, she had a great run of movies that was capped off by this, and I don't know what she has in the she hadn't done anything this year yet.
They're finishing up the third X movie, I guess, Pearl in '85. I think they're on the verge of finishing, or they just finished shooting, like in the last couple of weeks or so.
So that's a good one for regular horror fans to check out. Maybe it'll be the weirdest of the three too. But yeah, Mia Goth has been great. So Infinity Pool is definitely something to get if you have 4K, you might want it in this presentation. Otherwise, I think the Blu-ray will be just fine for anybody who doesn't care about like an extra second of penis shots. Second or two.
Or a steelbook case. So
yeah, the steelbook case. Some people do collect steelbooks, I think specifically. On to another one. This is a very rare one. It's been in our reader suggested queue for a long time, was not available. It's Jiri Barata's The Pied Piper, also called The Pied Piper of Hamelin, which is a stop motion animated dark fairy tale in the style of Jan Spunkmeyer. And that's about all we know. It's being released by Deaf Crocodile, and this is the first time it's been out in the US, really. Certainly the first time it's been out on Blu-ray. I don't believe it was available on DVD or VHS either. It might have not in the US.
If this was available, it was on extremely on bootleg. It was like on bootlegs and not good quality bootlegs. I know Czech animation. In my opinion, it's one of those categories that pretty much anything featuring that is going to be worth watching. This is no exception. And Deaf Crocodile is a label that's kind of like built a reputation on features like this. If you're interested in animation, it's worth getting. If you're interested in Czechoslovakian film or something, it's worth tracking down now that it's readily available. I don't have anything else of note to say of this, except I'm looking forward to seeing this either on disc, or they do have a streaming service, so it may you may see it there, or check your local your local art house. It may be making the rounds this fall.
Let's hope so. Also, people who like dark fairy tales may be interested in this. You can go on to IMDb and see some stills, and they're very, I think they'll get a lot of people excited. Very expressionist looking. I think this cover kind of captures the architectural style, although it doesn't have those bright reds in anything I saw. It was all very grayscale. Also, I believe there's no dialogue in it.
No, and this cover is by artist Dave McKeon. Slip cover. So if you're interested in any of McKean's work, so you might want to try to track this down. This is like a limited edition release, so for those who care about such things.
Right. Speaking of limited edition releases, this one, Killer Condom. Very limited edition. You can only buy this currently from Vinegar Syndrome site. It's one of those they do this frequently. They'll have ones that are exclusive to their site. Sometimes after that, they will show up at major retailers, but for this one, they specifically said it will not be offered by any major retailers, just by Vinegar Syndrome and some of their independent partners who they've struck deals with. There's currently a long review of this on the front page of 366weirdmovies.com, done by Shane Wilson, who reviewed this film by coincidence just before this. I think he watched a bootleg just before this restored Blu-ray came out. And Killer Condom is, he says it's ridiculous and crass, and one of the greatest examples of ridiculous crassness out there. It is a movie about a killer condom. It's set in New York City, where everybody speaks German because it's a German movie, and it's set in a flop house, and it's among sort of the gay subculture. I don't know if it was contemporary to the 90s or if it was meant to be set in an earlier grungier time period.
Kind of contemporary. It's from what I understand, it's sort of like New York in like the like mid to late 80s to like early 90s, which is kind of like where this came out in 96, so it's kind of supposed to be contemporary from what I gather. This I've heard of this. I've never seen it. I think Trauma might have released it on VHS because I remember seeing it in video stores and just kind of like going, ugh. But no, this is interesting. And kudos to Vinegar Syndrome for giving films like this like the treatment, putting it on in a decent version, and like you get two, from what I understand. There's a theatrical cut, and I believe that there's a director's cut. Like everything nowadays has a director's cut. So yeah.
The set is 3 discs. I mean, for Killer Condom, they put out a 3-disc set. So they have the UHD and 2 Blu-rays. 1 Blu-ray, I think, with nothing but special features on it. So I could be wrong.
No Magnificent Ambersons yet, but 3 discs for Killer Condom. But I mean, so that nothing against that. It's kind of like, it's just kind of like nice to see like things like this get that treatment. I wish like more companies would do it, but hey.
I think it has to do with the market nowadays because the only people who are collecting physical media are people who are either collecting the art house Criterion type stuff or collecting the very grungy, rare, obscure cult stuff, and everything in between doesn't get that 4K treatment or the lavish sets.
People who would buy it, who would buy a 3 discs at a Killer Condom.
You know who you are.
Oh yes, we knew.
Speaking of sleazy cult movies, this one I'd never heard of. Some of the reviews got me a little interested. It's called Black Magic Rites, being released by Indicator, who have been releasing sets of Jean Rollin, which we've talked about a lot on this site. And so this one is sort of a rare one, originally called The Reincarnation of Isabel, something to do with witchcraft and vampires and topless women. It's, gothic Euro horror in the mold of something Jess Franco would have done, or a guy whose name escapes me from Spain, who did all the werewolf, Paul Nash.
Nash, yeah.
Seems like
Euro cult horror. I think is kind of having a resurgence. It's, if you've never encountered it, it's interesting. I guess this one has Mickey Hargitray.
Yep.
King Mansfield's husband, Olivia Benson's father. I'm blanking on the actress's name. I know
Marissa. Is it Marissa?
Marissa Hargitray. Yeah. Other than that, I know nothing about this film. It looks interesting, and I guess looking at what the features are, there's a lot of like respected people. I guess like Kim Newman does like a commentary. Stephen Thrower, who's a noted genre writer, has a featurette. So an Indicator always has done a good looking disc. So if you're interested in Euro horror, this is a nice entry.
Yeah, they're all kind of, I think, interchangeable. You're going to see gothic imagery and lots of nudity, and probably a very slow plot with some occultism in it. This one is not that. It is another sort of Euro cult one. This is much more of a gritty zombie movie, City of the Living Dead by Fulci. The movie has a lot of fans. I don't think
Yeah.
we're among them. I saw it and couldn't remember anything about it.
It's Fulci. It's Fulci. If you're a Fulci fan, go all in. At the very least, it's interesting. I think was from what I understand, this has a vaguely Lovecraftian vibe to it. I've never I don't haven't seen much Fulci, and when I haven't felt the need to pursue it, but hey, again, Euro horror is if you're looking for Euro horror, it's now a good time to kind of start and dipping your toes in and investigating it.
Yeah, this is more of just a zombie movie in the, the Italian Living Dead ripoff vein. I didn't like it. I mean, like I said, I saw it and couldn't remember a darn detail of the plot about it afterwards. But it has fans.
That's pretty much just Fulci, except for like lots of eye damage.
Well, I remember one movie had the tarantulas that were very noisy. All right. But so here's one I know nothing about, and maybe you know more about it than I do, maybe not. 2-disc collection of the films of Beth B, which I think covers almost everything she did. It's 12 movies, mostly shorts. 2 of them are over an hour. She's a no-wave filmmaker who is in that, group that probably most famous person coming out of it was Jarmusch, sort of was associated with these people.
And Lydia Lunch.
Yeah. Steve Buscemi also acted in, so I don't know if he's in any of these, but he acted in some no-wave movies before he came out. In New York in the 90s, experimental movies, all low budget. And her name gets bandied about a bunch, and yet I've never seen anything by her, and I know that's all I know.
That's sort of like the no wave film, which was like in the 90s. Actually, kind of got started in the late 80s. People like Richard Kern, Lydia Lunch is
Nick
was a
Zed.
big part of this. Buscemi, kind of like downtown, like underground New York artist. She's done several features. I think one in the late 80s was called Salvation with Exene Cervenka from X and an early role of Viggo Mortensen from Lord of so she was not I guess at the time when I heard of her, which would have been early 90s, she was a known filmmaker, but she hasn't like really broken through to kind of like big mainstream success. But this looks like a collection of her most of her short films, not every film. But so just from the contents, pretty good selection of them. I have not seen any of her shorts, or I've seen some of the no wave films, but not particularly hers. I haven't seen Salvation at the time, and that came out in like 88, 89. So I don't have anything meaningful to say about the quality of the films, although she's been, I've had, the word overall has been good about her work.
Right.
And like I said, if you haven't heard of her, this seems like it's a good introduction. Or maybe if you see Salvation and decide you want to see more of her work, this is a good way. Kino also puts out a disc of Salvation, and I believe that they also have the theatrical and streaming rights to most of her shorts as well. So,
all right. Well, we don't know much about that, but it does come with a something of a pedigree. So now we have 8 minutes to discuss what Robert came on to discuss. Now, normally, this is a big set. Normally, I would not cover this because it is not a North American release. So to get this, you should know you're going to have an all-region player to be able to watch it. But it is Zulawski, that's how I'm going to pronounce it, 3 movies from Eureka, probably all restored for the first time. Third Part of the Night, The Devil, and On the Silver Globe, all of which I think Robert has reviewed for our site already.
Yeah.
Did you do Third Part of the Night? I know you did the other 2.
Yeah, I started to do like a series on Zulawski and kind of doing it in the order of the films because I did have access to some earlier releases, and I got up to like Possession. The latter part is coming soon, maybe, but this is like Zulawski's first 3 films, what they sometimes call his Polish trilogy. And they've been hard to get. The easiest film now to get is Possession, and everybody goes to Possession. These are not in English, so that's a sticking point, and they weren't easy to get. Third Part of the Night had been put out by a company in Britain called Second Run, like 12 years ago. And The Devil and On the Silver Globe did come out on DVD in the late 90s in very poor and murky transfers. But again, that's all that you had. Back, I guess, around 2015, before Zulawski died, there was interest in restoring the films. So The Devil and Third Part of the Night did get restoration by Polish Film Center, and the work on the Silver Globe kind of by that time he had done like the translations with Daniel Bird, who's like a producer of this set. But like the main visual work took place after he had died. What can I say? What more to say about these? People, I think people who have seen Possession tend to think that's pretty extreme. Nah, it's not just Possession. This is it's pretty much there from the start. And I guess now that you have access, you can kind of see that, at least in my view, there's like a progression. Like in most directors, certain things tend to kind of show up from film to film, and here you can easily trace the progression of that into Possession and probably beyond if you're able to find the rest of his catalog.
So let's mention though specifically. Tell us the story of On the Silver Globe for people who aren't familiar with that one. Mm-hmm. It's kind of an outlier.
Yeah, On the Silver Globe is a adaptation of a trilogy done by his great uncle, Jerzy Zulawski, in the early 1900s, usually referred to as the Lunar Trilogy, based on 3 works. And the story of how he got to make it is as interesting as the film itself. He had done Third Part of the Night earlier before, which was got some notice. When he did The Devil, that was shelved for about 13 years and got him kicked out of Poland. He went to France, did another film with Romy Schneider that was a success. So then the Polish authorities brought him back into the fold. What do you want to do? This adaptation of his great uncle's trilogy, which is about how this group of astronauts go to this other planet, In the trilogy, it's the moon, but things have changed. So they go to this other planet, they crash land, they can't get back, and eventually this society kind of is created from the survivors, and they kind of like go create their own religion and such. They discover that there's like indigenous species also on the planet across the ocean or something. And then that's the first part of the book. And in the second book, someone from Earth, there's this message, that diary that kind of comes back to the planet, and like the first 45 minutes, hour of the film is this diary that gets sent back about the astronauts, how they survived. And it's like totally like first person camera, what's kind of like now done as found footage. This has been done, like this was shot in 1976, so like a good couple of decades before found footage became in vogue. There's so much in this that's innovative at the time. If it had been finished at the time, I think it would have made it more widely known. As it is, this got shut down by the government, and pretty much is an unfinished film. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, I mean, and it wasn't really completed and re-released. Nobody saw it until this millennium, right?
Until like 1987, it premiered at Cannes along with The Devil, and kind of like both of those films that were suppressed kind of got seen for the first time. And then like it wasn't until like late 90s when the DVDs came out, not in good quality, but then they did these restorations, and they've been making the rounds, and now they're on disc for people who have all region players. Hopefully there might be an American North America version out at some point. It's not going to be anytime soon.
Yeah, well, that's a shame, but if you can, that's a great set to buy. Rare films, and we're about out of time, so we're going to say goodbye. Thanks for being here, Robert.
Thank you.